Hey there, just going to finish up day 17. I went off and noodled on it. You can see I got this fancy microphone. They gave it to me for speaking at NormConf, and I bought a little arm to put it on, so now I can actually use it without like shoving it in my face. Hopefully the sound is a little bit better because it's a nicer microphone than my old headset. Anyway, I went off and noodled on the part I was stuck on, and I thought, so I already solved it, but I'll show you what I did. I thought this game looks like Tetris, and what do you do? So first off, I ran it trying to find patterns, right? And my list of like occupied spaces got really big and it got really slow. So I thought, in Tetris you make lines, right? And if ever I were to make a line here, then I don't care about what happens below it, right? Because the line acts as a new floor. Everything that falls down only cares about that line. So whenever I make a line, if I make a line, I can just forget everything under that line as long as I remember how high that line is. And so what I did is this is actually the result of several tries, but I wrote something that would basically run forever and just tell me what's happened after some number of steps. So I have a set of things that's occupied. My gases are a cycle of the pattern again, and these things I'm keeping track of. And so again, what I do is for each rock, I increment my count, which is time step, and I say, what is the floor? The floor is going to be if something isn't occupied, oh, that's interesting because, yeah, okay, that's right. So this is just where I'm going to start. So this is the same logic as before. Find the top left corner and start a rock there. And then, for this rock, keep going, pull off the next gas, blow it left or right, move the rock, and if sideways it hits a rock, pass, whatever. Otherwise, try to go down, and stop when you get there. So this is all the same as before. But now I do the following. I said, I've just put a rock somewhere, and now check if I've made a line at any of those places. That's the only place I could have made a line. And so I iterate over all those points I just do, and if every single one of them is occupied, then I have a line. I pick the highest such line, and I do a couple things. One is I basically re-zero all the points and forget the ones below the line, right? So if I have a point at 103 and the line is at 100, I change that point so it's at 3, and I get rid of all the points that are below 100. But then the other thing I do is I keep track of this deleted variable, so I know that, I've deleted 1,000 lines, so every height you see, mentally add 1,000 back to it. So I delete those lines and then take it off from the actual height, okay? And then what I do is I just yield, like, this is the total height, this is how many steps I've had, this is whether I completed a line at this step, and this is delta is h if line equals none. So that's basically saying, if I formed a line, how high have I gone since the last time I formed a line? And so I just yield all these, and the reason I'm yielding dicks is because I'm going to stick them into pandas, right? And so for find height now, I just run that pattern for some number of steps and return the height thing. Okay, so that's this is a display thing. So anyway, so what I did is I said I'm just going to run this for 100,000 steps and see what happens. So this isn't the exact order I did things in, but so after so I get this data frame where as a pandas data frame, height, time, was a line completed, and what's the delta. So now I'm just going to look at the ones where I did complete a line and look for a pattern. Okay, let's look at the first 100 rows. Okay, and so what I see is what I was really looking for was I was looking for patterns in this deltas column, which is how many lines have I gone since the last time I did it, right? So there's a lot of numbers here, but you can see this 443 keeps repeating, for instance, 440, 443, 443, 443. So now you see a pattern, right? So now let's change that and say delta equals 443 and see what happens. And so now you can see that, you know, that, now that's looking pretty good. And so, you know, what if I just do time? And so let's say times equals this. So now I have these times, and I want to know what is the difference between these times, right? So I say times minus times shift 1, I think. So I see every 1,725 time steps, I end up in the same thing. And now let's, you know, check heights, and this will be interesting. Heights equals df every 1725 height. And then heights minus heights shift 1. You can see that every 1725 steps, it grows, not this first one, but eventually it grows by 2,734, right? And so now, actually that's interesting because I could have screwed it up. So every, what did I say that was? 1725 steps grow by 2734. And if you check it for like other starting points, it still works except for the beginning. So that tells me that, you know, I need this many rocks, right? And so now what I can do is I can do, so let's say total equals this. So that's a lot, right? And then I do div mod that total by 725 because I want to say, so I say that number is this huge number times 1725 plus 1600, right? And so what I can do, and I should have gone to the second step, but I didn't do that anyway, is I said df.query time equals 1600. And that's a height 2551, right? So I said 2551 plus this number times 2734, and I got this big number, and that was my answer. So that's how I did it. It's not, it bugs me because it's not principled. Like, I don't really understand. There's nothing a priori about this problem as to why it should repeat like that with such a small cycle. It just so happens that it does. And so that's how I worked it out. This is one of those, sometimes in Advent code, they want you to kind of reason outside the system. So anyway, it worked. It so happened that there was a pattern like that, which made it possible. If there had not been a pattern like that, maybe there had to be a pattern like that. I don't think there had to be a pattern like that with such a short time period that I could find it. But anyway, it worked. That's how I did it. I went off and slept on it and woke up and said, I'm going to try doing it this way. So it worked. Yeah. All right. Maybe I'll do day 18 later. Maybe I won't. But that's about it. All right.